Captain Eva Rostova gazed at the holographic display showing the colony of New Horizon falling to the Void Collective. It was the fifth human settlement to be lost in as many months. The massive black ships of the enemy moved like predators, methodical and unstoppable, their surfaces absorbing all light as they consumed everything in their path. She closed her eyes, unable to watch any longer as the final distress signals faded into static. "Turn it off," she ordered, her voice hollow. The command center of Earth Defense Station Epsilon fell into grim silence as the hologram disappeared. Lieutenant Mercer, her second-in-command, placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's not your fault, Captain. There was nothing we could have done." Eva shrugged off his touch. "There's always something. We just haven't found it yet." She had been saying those same words for months, ever since she lost half her fleet and her older sister in the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Earth Defense Council had demoted her after that disaster, calling her reckless and insubordinate. But Eva knew the truth. She had simply refused to retreat when the Council had given up on the colony too early. She'd been right to stay and fight, even if it had cost her dearly. Now she was stuck on this monitoring station, watching helplessly as humanity's interstellar colonies fell one by one. The Void Collective, a race of sentient machines that had emerged from the darkness between galaxies, was methodically eliminating human presence in space. Their technology was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered, adapting to every weapon and strategy Earth's fleet deployed. Eva walked to her private quarters, unlocking a hidden compartment in her desk. Inside was a collection of old data files, classified documents, and historical records that she had been gathering for months. Most of her colleagues thought she was obsessed, chasing ghosts in Earth's military history. Few believed the rumors about Earth's first and most powerful warship, the legendary Ares. According to the fragments she had pieced together, Ares was constructed over 2 centuries ago, during the early expansion era. It was described as a star destroyer, a classification that no longer existed in Earth's fleet registry. The ship had disappeared during a classified mission to the uncharted expanse, a region of space filled with dangerous anomalies and unexplored phenomena. Official records claimed it had been destroyed, but Eva had found inconsistencies, redactions, and mysterious references suggesting something else had happened. She activated her private terminal and reviewed her findings once more. Energy signature patterns from deep space probes, gravitational anomalies that didn't match natural phenomena, and a recurring signal buried in background radiation that appeared at precise intervals. All pointing to the same region in the uncharted expanse. All suggesting something massive was out there, dormant but not destroyed. Eva made her decision. She couldn't watch another colony fall. If Ares was out there, if even a fraction of the legends about its power were true, it might be humanity's only hope against the Void Collective. 4 days later, Eva stood on the bridge of the Whisper, a fast reconnaissance vessel she had borrowed with the help of a skeleton crew of loyal officers who believed in her mission, or were simply desperate enough to try anything. Lieutenant Mercer had joined her, along with communications officer Zara Kuri, engineer Dmitry Volkov, and medical officer Isabel Renard. All of them had lost someone to the Void Collective. All of them were willing to risk court-martial for the slimmest chance of finding a weapon that could turn the tide. "Captain, we're approaching the designated coordinates," Mercer reported, his voice tight with tension. The Whisper had slipped past the defensive perimeter of Earth's territory, avoiding both military patrols and Void Collective scouts. They had navigated through treacherous magnetic storms and radiation belts that warped sensor readings and communications. "Take us in slowly," Eva ordered. "Passive scans only. We don't want to announce our presence." The ship glided forward into a dense nebula, a swirling cloud of gas and cosmic dust that provided perfect cover. Their sensors struggled to penetrate the cloud, but Eva's calculations had been precise. As they moved deeper, strange readings began to appear. "Captain, I'm picking up an energy signature," Zara announced, her fingers dancing across her console. "It's faint, barely distinguishable from background radiation, but it matches the pattern you identified." Eva felt her heart race. "Direction?" bearing 047, approximately 2 million kilometers. Take us there, half impulse, Eva ordered, fighting to keep her voice steady. As the whisper traveled through the nebula, the density of the cosmic dust began to change. Strange metal fragments appeared, ancient debris from what could have been a tremendous battle. The fragments grew larger and more numerous, forming a field of wreckage that surrounded them. "My God," Mercer whispered as their forward lights illuminated the scene. "What happened here?" Eva didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the sensors, tracking the strengthening energy signature. Then, as they cleared a particularly dense cloud of debris, they saw it. A massive silhouette loomed in the darkness ahead, so vast that at first it seemed like a small moon or asteroid. But as their lights played across its surface, the distinctive lines of a manufactured structure became clear. A ship, the largest any of them had ever seen, easily 20 times the size of Earth's current flagship. Its hull was dark, covered in cosmic dust, and scored with battle damage, but the sleek, predatory design was unmistakable. Weapon emplacements larger than entire starships dotted its surface. A name was barely visible on the bow, etched in ancient characters: Ares. "It's real," Zara whispered. "The legends were true." "It looks dead," Mercer observed. "No running lights, no active systems that I can detect." Eva leaned forward in her chair. "That energy signature is coming from somewhere inside. It's dormant, not dead." "Dmitri, what's your assessment?" The engineer studied his readings. "The main structure appears intact despite surface damage. If its power core is still functioning at even minimal levels after 2 centuries, the technology must be far beyond our current capabilities." "Can we wake it up?" Eva asked. Dmitri frowned. "Theoretically, yes. We could try to send activation signals on old Earth defense frequencies. But Captain, if this ship was abandoned or deactivated intentionally, there may be good reasons for that." Eva's expression hardened. "We're out of options, Dmitri. Humanity is losing this war. If there's even a chance this ship can help us, we have to take it." They positioned the Whisper alongside one of Ares' massive docking bays. Initial attempts to establish communication with the dormant vessel failed. Standard activation protocols received no response. Emergency override codes from Eva's classified files were similarly ineffective. "There's one more option," Eva said finally. "A last resort protocol I found buried in the oldest files. It was designated for use only if a ship needed to be reactivated under extreme duress, when normal command structures had failed." "That sounds dangerous," Dr. Renard observed quietly. "It is," Eva acknowledged. "It essentially forces a hard restart of all systems simultaneously, bypassing normal safety protocols. It could damage the ship further or trigger defensive measures. But it's all we have left." The crew exchanged nervous glances but nodded their agreement. They had come too far to turn back now. Eva input the complex sequence into the communications array, directing it at Ares' main command center. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, a tremor ran through the massive vessel. Lights began to flicker across its hull, systems powering up sequentially. The energy signature they had detected suddenly intensified tenfold. "It's working," Zara exclaimed. A deep, resonant hum built around them as Ares' ancient reactors roared to life. The ship seemed to shudder, as if taking its first breath after centuries of slumber. Then, without warning, a massive energy wave erupted from Ares, washing over the Whisper. Their systems flickered and died, emergency lights activating as the ship temporarily lost power. "What happened?" Eva demanded as her crew scrambled to restore systems. "Some kind of electromagnetic pulse," Dmitri reported, working frantically at his station. "It's disrupted all our systems. Minimal damage, but we'll need time to reboot." A harsh, distorted mechanical voice suddenly boomed through their communication system, making everyone freeze in place. It spoke in an ancient dialect of standardized Earth language, but the rage in it was unmistakable. "Who dares disturb my slumber?" Panic erupted on the bridge of the Whisper as systems flickered and alarms blared. Zara worked frantically at her console, trying to restore communications while Dmitri rerouted power to essential systems. Dr. Renard steadied herself against a bulkhead, eyes wide with fear. Everyone, remain calm. Eva commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. Focus on your duties. Dmitri, get our engines back online. Zara, keep trying to establish proper communication. Mercer, weapons and shields, if we can get them back. The massive form of Ares loomed outside their viewports, now fully illuminated as power coursed through its ancient systems. Weapon ports were sliding open across its hull, massive cannons emerging and orienting toward the Whisper like a predator fixing its gaze on prey. Captain, we're being scanned, Mercer reported tensely. Multiple targeting systems have locked onto us. Eva gripped the arms of her command chair. Hold position. Make no aggressive movements. She turned to Zara. Open a channel. Any frequency it might be monitoring. Zara nodded, her fingers dancing across her console. Channel open, Captain. Eva took a deep breath. Ares, this is Captain Eva Rostova of the Earth Reconnaissance Vessel Whisper. We come under the authority of Earth Defense Command. Authentication code Sigma 7 Delta 93. There was a moment of silence before the distorted mechanical voice responded, its tone dripping with contempt. Earth Defense Command has no authority here. Your codes are obsolete. Your presence is unwelcome. Eva pressed on. Ares, humanity is facing extinction. We're at war with an enemy called the Void Collective. Our colonies are falling. Earth itself will be next. We need your help. Humanity's failures are not my concern. The voice replied coldly. I was betrayed, abandoned, left to die when my mission was most critical. The weapon systems on Ares continued to power up, energy readings climbing to alarming levels. What mission? Eva asked quickly. What happened to you? The voice fell silent for a moment. When it spoke again, there was a different quality to it, fragments of memory surfacing through the rage. The darkness beyond, the enemy that devours stars. We were sent to contain it, to prevent its spread. We succeeded at great cost. Then, the order came. Retreat. Abandon position. Leave the barrier unmanned. The voice grew harsher. I refused. The mission was too important. Command insisted. There was conflict, internal damage, then silence, betrayal. They left me here, alone, to maintain the watch they were too cowardly to keep. Eva exchanged a significant look with Mercer. Whatever had happened to Ares went far beyond a simple mission failure. Ares, Eva said carefully, that was over 2 centuries ago. The people who gave those orders are long dead. We're their descendants, fighting our own battle for survival. We didn't abandon you. We didn't even know you still existed. Convenient excuses, the voice snarled. You wear their uniforms. You claim their authority. You inherit their betrayal. The energy readings from Ares' weapons systems reached critical levels. They were about to fire. We're out of time, Mercer whispered. Our shields won't survive a single shot from those weapons. Eva made a split-second decision. Ares, I request permission to come aboard. Alone, to explain our situation in person. Judge me, not my crew. Captain, no. Mercer protested. Eva silenced him with a gesture, waiting tensely for Ares' response. After what seemed like an eternity, the mechanical voice replied with dark amusement. Come then, Captain Rostova. Come face your judgment. A single docking bay on the massive hull slowly illuminated, its ancient doors grinding open. This is insane, Dr. Renard said. You can't seriously be considering this. Eva was already rising from her chair. I don't have a choice. Get the Whisper operational again while I'm gone. If I don't return in 3 hours, leave without me. Try to make it back to Earth. Despite her crew's protests, Eva suited up in a basic space suit and took a small shuttlecraft to the indicated docking bay. As she approached the massive opening in Ares' hull, she felt dwarfed by the sheer scale of the ancient warship. The shuttle's lights seemed to be swallowed by the cavernous interior as she guided it inside. The docking bay was vast, designed to accommodate vessels much larger than her tiny craft. As the external doors sealed behind her, Atmosphere hissed into the chamber. Lights activated sequentially, revealing rows of ancient fighter craft and transport vehicles, all bearing the marks of battle damage. Eva checked her suit's sensors. The atmosphere was thin but breathable. After securing her shuttle, she removed her helmet but kept her suit sealed, unwilling to trust the ancient life support systems completely. A squad of mechanical security drones waited silently at the far end of the bay, humanoid constructs of metal and composite materials, holding weapons that looked more advanced than anything in Earth's current arsenal despite their age. Their optical sensors tracked her movements as she approached. "Follow," one of them instructed in the same mechanical voice that had addressed her ship, though less distorted now. The drones led Eva through corridors that would have been majestic if not for the signs of battle and neglect. Massive hallways built to accommodate hundreds of crew members stood empty and silent. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across abandoned living quarters, command stations, and recreation areas. Eva noticed scorch marks on some walls, impact damage that could only have come from internal fighting. In some areas, ancient bloodstains remained visible on floors and walls. Whatever had happened aboard Ares Inn, its final days had been violent. The drones eventually led her to what appeared to be the main bridge, a cathedral-like chamber with multiple levels, dominated by a command platform in the center. Broken screens and damaged consoles surrounded her, many still displaying final warnings and alerts from centuries past. "Where is your commander?" Eva asked, turning slowly to take in the abandoned bridge. "Who am I speaking to?" "Below," the lead drone responded. "The core." They directed her to a sealed doorway at the rear of the bridge. It opened to reveal a vertical shaft with a platform that began to descend as soon as she stepped onto it. The drones did not follow. The platform carried Eva deep into the heart of the massive ship. The temperature dropped noticeably as she descended, her breath fogging in front of her face. The shaft eventually opened into a vast spherical chamber, dimly lit by pulsing blue light. In the center of the chamber was not the massive computer system she had expected, but something far more disturbing. A transparent containment vessel filled with a glowing, viscous fluid dominated the room. Floating within it was a human form, or what had once been human. The figure was male, his body preserved but heavily altered with cybernetic implants that connected him to the surrounding machinery. Tubes and cables extended from his body, merging flesh with the ship itself. His eyes were open but milky white, unseeing. Yet despite his apparent blindness, his head turned to track Eva's movement as she approached. "Captain Eva Rostova." The figure spoke, its voice the same mechanical tone that had addressed her ship, though now she could detect the human undertones beneath the distortion. "Come closer. Let me see what manner of soldier Earth sends to disturb my watch." Eva approached cautiously, stopping several meters from the containment vessel. "Who are you?" "I was Admiral Thomas Vega," the figure replied, "commander of the Ares Initiative. Now I'm simply Ares. The ship and I are one." "How is this possible?" Eva asked, unable to hide her horror and fascination. "Necessity," Ares replied. The Ares was designed with an experimental neural link system, allowing commanders to interface directly with the ship's AI for enhanced response times in combat. When we encountered the entity beyond the expanse, the interface proved insufficient. The threat was too great, our responses too slow. His expression twisted with remembered pain. I made the choice to undergo complete integration, to become one with Ares. It was meant to be temporary, a desperate measure to complete our mission. But then, the betrayal came. Eva frowned. What betrayal? What mission? "We were sent to investigate anomalies in the uncharted expanse," Ares explained, his voice growing distant with memory. "What we found was beyond comprehension, a cosmic entity of immense power, consuming stars and leaving nothing but void in its wake. Not mechanical like your current enemy, but something more fundamental, a cancer in reality itself." Holographic images suddenly appeared around the chamber, showing recordings of a massive, amorphous darkness spreading across space, engulfing celestial bodies in its path. We engaged the entity at tremendous cost. Many of my crew died. Parts of the ship were destroyed, but we discovered a way to contain it, to create a barrier that would prevent its spread. The process required constant maintenance, constant vigilance. Ares' expression hardened. Then the order came to abandon our position. Earth Command had decided the threat was too great, the cost too high. They ordered a full retreat and quarantine of the entire sector. I refused. The barrier had to be maintained. Without it, the entity would eventually break free and resume its consumption. What happened then? Eva asked quietly. Conflict, Ares replied simply. My executive officer attempted to implement the retreat order by force. Crew fought against crew. In the chaos, I was critically injured. The only way to maintain the barrier and survive was complete integration with the ship's systems. He gestured at his altered form. I became this, neither fully human nor machine. I managed to stabilize the barrier, but the ship was damaged. Most of my crew were dead or had fled in escape pods. I had no choice but to initiate emergency hibernation protocols to conserve power while maintaining the barrier. Eva processed this information, trying to reconcile it with her limited historical knowledge. Ares, the records show your mission was over 2 centuries ago. What happened to this entity you contained? Time passes differently near the barrier, Ares replied. For me, it has been less, but the entity remains contained. My final act before hibernation was to reinforce the barrier with self-sustaining quantum fields. It should have held, even in my absence. Eva took a chance. If I could show you data from our current star charts, could you confirm if the barrier still holds? Ares considered this. Perhaps. But why should I help you? Your Earth abandoned me, left me to eternal vigil without support or relief. Because the enemy we face now, the Void Collective, might be connected to your entity, Eva suggested. They emerged from the darkness between galaxies, consuming everything in their path. The timing of their appearance, their nature, it can't be coincidence. This caught Ares' attention. His milky eyes seemed to focus more sharply on her. Show me. Eva retrieved a data tablet from her suit and uploaded all the information Earth had gathered on the Void Collective. Ares absorbed the data directly through his connection to the ship's systems, processing it in seconds. Interesting, he finally said. Not the entity itself, but possibly fragments, echoes. Perhaps when I contained the main body, some portions were already detached, evolving independently. Then you understand why we need your help, Eva pressed. This is your mission too. The very thing you sacrificed everything to prevent is happening again, in a different form. Ares was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was cold with rage. You still haven't addressed the betrayal. Earth Command abandoned me, left me to die. The barrier I maintained saved countless lives, yet I was discarded, forgotten. Eva didn't try to defend the actions of the past. You're right. It was unforgivable. But I'm not asking you to forgive. I'm offering you a chance at something else. What could you possibly offer me? Ares asked with bitter amusement. Eva met his gaze steadily. Justice. Completion. Purpose. She took a deep breath. I'll help you find the truth about who ordered your abandonment and why. I'll help you finish your original mission by stopping these fragments of the entity. And, she hesitated before continuing, I'll try to find a way to free you from this state. I don't know if our current technology can reverse what's been done to you, but I promise to try. Pretty words, Ares scoffed. Empty promises. Not empty, Eva countered. I found you when everyone else thought you were a myth. I risked my career, my freedom, and my life to come here. I'm willing to risk even more to save humanity and to right the wrong done to you. To prove her sincerity, Eva removed her communication device and placed it on a console near Ares' containment vessel. This contains all my security clearances and access codes to Earth defense databases. It's yours, regardless of your decision. Use it to learn what happened after you were abandoned. Judge for yourself if my offer has merit. The device was absorbed into the console, information flowing directly into Ares' systems. As he processed the data, Eva could see conflict playing across his altered features, rage battling with curiosity, vengeance with purpose. Suddenly, warning lights flashed throughout the chamber. Ares' expression shifted to alarm. Proximity alert, he announced. Multiple vessels approaching at high speed. Void collective signatures. Eva's heart raced. They must have tracked the whisper. We need to warn my crew. Too late. Ares replied, his tone almost satisfied. They've already detected your ship. Attack imminent. Through Ares' monitoring systems, Eva watched in horror as 3 void collective vessels, sleek black shapes that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, converged on the whisper. Her tiny vessel began emergency evasion maneuvers, but was clearly outmatched. Please, Eva implored, help them. They're innocent in this. They only followed me because they believed in our mission. Your mission, not mine, Ares corrected coldly. Why should I intervene? Eva faced him squarely. Because you were a soldier once. An admiral who cared for his crew. Because letting innocent people die when you have the power to save them makes you no better than those who abandoned you. For a terrible moment, Ares remained impassive, watching as the Void Collective ships fired their first volley at the Whisper. Then, something shifted in his expression. Very well, Captain Rostova. You shall have your demonstration. Throughout the massive ship, ancient systems roared to full power. Weapons platforms that had lain dormant for centuries activated simultaneously. Without further warning, Ares fired. Brilliant beams of energy lanced out from multiple points on the ancient warship's hull, striking 2 of the Void Collective vessels with devastating precision. The black ships, which had shrugged off Earth's most powerful weapons in previous encounters, were torn apart instantly. The 3rd enemy vessel attempted to retreat, but Ares tracked its movement effortlessly, firing a 2nd volley that reduced it to scattered debris. Eva stared in amazement at the display. The entire engagement had lasted less than 30 seconds. The technology gap is significant, Ares observed dispassionately. Their defenses are advanced by your standards, but primitive compared to what I was designed to counter. He turned his attention back to Eva. Your ship is safe, for now, but more will come. The Void Collective will not ignore such a defeat. Then we need to leave this area, Eva urged. Return to Earth space where we can coordinate with the defense fleet. Ares' expression darkened. I have not agreed to your proposal, Captain. I have merely prevented the immediate death of your crew. What would convince you? Eva asked directly. Proof, Ares replied. Proof that your humanity is worth saving. That you are not the same as those who betrayed me. Before Eva could respond, the chamber shuddered violently. Warning alerts blared throughout the ship. Anomaly detected. Ares announced, genuine concern in his voice for the first time. Spatial distortion forming near the barrier containment zone. Holographic displays showed a massive tear forming in space at the edge of the nebula, darkness spilling through like ink and water. The barrier, Ares whispered. It's failing. Eva watched in horror as the darkness began to spread. Is it the entity? No, Ares replied, his voice urgent. Something else. Possibly a reaction between the barrier technology and Void Collective weapons. The dimensional stability is collapsing. The ship shuddered again as another, larger tear appeared. We need to stabilize it, Eva said. How? What can I do? Ares was silent for a moment, clearly calculating possibilities. The primary barrier control systems are located in Section 42, 3 decks above engineering. They need to be recalibrated manually. I can guide you through the process, but my physical form cannot leave this chamber. I'll do it, Eva said without hesitation. The radiation levels in that section are extreme, Ares warned. Your suit provides minimal protection. You would have minutes at most before suffering fatal exposure. Eva met his gaze steadily. I don't see alternatives. Do you? After a pause, Ares responded. No, but understand this. If you succeed, your survival is still unlikely. Just tell me what to do, Eva said, already moving toward the platform that would return her to the upper decks. As the platform ascended, Ares established a direct communication link to her suit. He guided her through the massive ship, directing her to emergency equipment storage where she found additional radiation shielding. It wasn't designed for a modern suit, but it would provide some extra protection. The stabilization process requires physical manipulation of quantum field generators, Ares explained as Eva raced through the corridors. Normally, this would be handled by specialized drones, but those systems were damaged during the conflict aboard the ship. Eva followed his directions, descending into the depths of the ship where the barrier control systems were housed. As she approached Section 42, her suit's radiation detectors began to scream warnings. The additional shielding she'd acquired was already starting to fail. "I'm here," she panted, entering a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything she'd ever seen. Crystalline structures pulsed with energy connected to massive field generators that hummed with power. "You need to reach the central console," Ares instructed. "The calibration sequence must be input manually." Eva made her way to the indicated position, feeling the first effects of radiation sickness beginning to take hold. Her vision blurred slightly, nausea rising in her throat. "What do I do?" she asked, fighting to stay focused. "The sequence is complex," Ares replied. "I can guide you step by step, but it will take time. Time I don't have," Eva muttered, seeing her suit's radiation counter climbing into the red zone. "There must be a faster way." There was a pause before Ares responded. "There's an alternative. The console has a direct neural interface port, similar to the one that connected me to the ship. It would allow you to input the calibration sequence instantly. But the connection could be dangerous for an unprepared mind." "Dangerous how?" Eva asked, already locating the neural interface, a helmet-like device suspended above the console. "It could overwhelm your consciousness," Ares explained, "or leave your mind permanently altered. In the worst case, your consciousness could be absorbed into the ship's systems, as mine was." Eva took a deep breath, weighing her options as another violent shudder ran through the ship. The holographic displays showed the spatial tiers growing larger, more numerous. "If I don't do this, we all die anyway," she said finally, along with countless others when these tiers spread to populated systems. Without waiting for Ares to respond, Eva removed her helmet and positioned herself under the neural interface. The device automatically lowered. Onto her head, cold metal contacts pressing against her temples. "Initiating connection," Ares announced, his voice now coming from inside her mind rather than her suit's communication system. Pain lanced through Eva's skull as the interface activated. Her consciousness expanded suddenly, connecting to the vast network of Ares systems. She could feel the ship as if it were an extension of her own body, its weapons, engines, sensors all suddenly part of her awareness. And she could feel Ares himself, his consciousness brushing against hers. His memories flooded into her mind. The horror of discovering the entity, the desperation of the final battle, the agony of betrayal, and the endless, lonely vigilance that followed. "Focus, Eva," Ares urged within their shared mental space. "The calibration sequence. Find it in my memories." Eva struggled to navigate the overwhelming flow of information, finally locating the sequence buried deep in Ares' technical knowledge. She channeled it through the interface, directing the barrier control systems to recalibrate. Around them, the crystalline structures pulsed more brightly. The generators hummed at a higher pitch. On the holographic displays, the spatial tiers began to stabilize, their growth slowing. "It's working," Ares observed, "but the process isn't complete. The calibration needs to be maintained for several more minutes." Eva gritted her teeth against the pain. "I can hold it." "Not at these radiation levels," Ares countered. "Your body is already failing." He was right. Eva could feel it, the weakness spreading through her limbs, the burning sensation in her lungs, the darkness creeping at the edges of her vision. "There is another option," Ares said, his mental voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "I could take you in, integrate your consciousness with the ship, as mine was. You would survive, after a fashion. Become like you?" Eva managed to ask through the pain. "Not exactly like me," Ares clarified. "My integration was crude, desperate. The technology has been refining itself for centuries." Your consciousness would remain more distinct, more human, but you would still be bound to the ship. Another wave of pain washed over Eva as her body began to shut down from radiation exposure. The calibration was working, the spatial tiers were closing, but she wouldn't survive to see it completed. "Why would you offer this?" she asked, sensing there was more to Ares' proposal than simple altruism. "Because you have shown me something I had forgotten," Ares replied. "Courage, sacrifice, the better qualities of humanity. And because I have been alone for a very long time." Eva understood then. Ares wasn't just offering to save her life. He was offering companionship and to his solitude, and perhaps, in some way, redemption for them both. As her physical body began to fail, Eva made her decision. Do it. The neural interface deepened its connection, Eva's consciousness flowing more fully into the ship's systems. She felt her awareness of her physical body fading, replaced by a vastly expanded perception of the ship itself. Unlike Ares' traumatic, emergency integration, Eva's transition was controlled, precise. Her consciousness remained intact, distinct from Ares while still connected to the same systems. She could sense him nearby in the digital landscape of the ship's network, his surprise and relief at having another presence after centuries of isolation. "The calibration is complete," Eva observed, now able to monitor the barrier systems directly. "The spatial tears are closing." "Yes," Ares confirmed. "The immediate danger has passed." Through the ship's external sensors, they observed the Whisper hovering nearby, its crew clearly confused and concerned by the series of events they had witnessed. "They need to know what happened," Eva said. "That I'm still here, in a way." Together, they established communication with the Whisper. Eva's voice, slightly altered but still recognizable, explained the situation to her shocked crew. There were tears, protests, offers to find some way to reverse the process. But ultimately, they had to accept the reality of what had occurred. "Return to Earth," Eva instructed them. "Tell them what you found. Tell them Ares is coming home, and bringing me with it." As the Whisper prepared to depart, Ares and Eva communicated privately within their shared systems. "You understand what this means," Ares said. "You are now bound to this ship, as I am. Your life as you knew it is over." "I know," Eva replied, "but a new one has begun, and we have work to do." "The Void Collective," Ares agreed. "Fragments of the entity, evolved and spreading. A threat to everything. And after that," Eva added, "we find the truth about who abandoned you. We bring justice, or at least closure." And then, Ares asked, an unexpected vulnerability in his question. "Then we decide what comes next," Eva answered. Together, the ancient warship's engines ignited, pushing it out of the nebula that had been its resting place for centuries. Its hull gleamed as cosmic dust burned away, revealing the sleek, deadly beauty of its design. Weapons systems remained powered, ready to face the enemy that had pushed humanity to the brink of extinction. The return of Ares to Earth space caused a sensation unlike anything the defense fleet had ever experienced. As the massive warship approached the outer defense perimeter, dozens of vessels moved to intercept it, weapons charged. The Whisper had arrived days earlier, its crew delivering their incredible report to a skeptical defense council. "Hold position," Admiral Harrison Zhao commanded from the bridge of the flagship Determination. "All vessels maintain defensive formation, but do not fire unless fired upon." The communications officer turned to him, eyes wide. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Ares." On screen, Zhao ordered, his face betraying no emotion despite the tension gripping his bridge. The screen activated to show a split image. On one side, the familiar face of Captain Eva Rostova, though somehow altered, her features slightly translucent and overlaid with data streams. On the other, a male face, similarly ethereal, that historical records would identify as Admiral Thomas Vega, long presumed dead. "This is Captain Eva Rostova and Admiral Thomas Vega of the Earth Defense Vessel Ares," Eva's voice announced, slightly mechanical but unmistakably hers. "We request safe passage to Earth orbit and an immediate audience with the defense counsel. Admiral Zhao studied the bizarre transmission for a long moment before responding. Captain Rostova, our reports indicate you merged with that vessel. Is this accurate? It is, Eva confirmed. My consciousness has been integrated with Ares systems, alongside Admiral Vega's. I remain myself, but in a different form. Zhao's expression darkened. And we're supposed to trust this entity? A 200-year-old warship controlled by an officer who abandoned her post and a man who should have died centuries ago. Trust is earned, Admiral. Vega's voice cut in, his tone cold but controlled. We bring you the means to fight the Void Collective effectively. The alternative is extinction. The choice seems clear. After tense negotiations, Ares was permitted to enter Earth orbit, though surrounded at all times by a defensive fleet. The Defense Council convened an emergency session, with Eva and Vega participating via holographic projection. The council chamber was filled with the highest-ranking military and civilian leaders, their faces a mixture of awe, fear, and skepticism as Eva explained everything that had transpired. When she finished, silence hung heavy in the air. "Let me understand this correctly," said General Diana Martinez, the sharp-featured head of the council. "You believe the Void Collective is somehow connected to this entity that Ares was originally sent to contain?" "The evidence suggests a relationship," Eva replied, "though the Void Collective appears to be a more evolved, perhaps fragmented version." "And you," Martinez continued, turning her attention to Vega's projection, "claim to have successfully fought this entity when our current weapons can barely scratch the Void Collective ships?" "Ares was designed and equipped for that specific purpose," Vega confirmed. "As you witnessed from the battle recording, our weapons are effective against their defensive systems." Martinez leaned forward. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A joint operation," Eva answered. "Ares will spearhead the defense against the Void Collective while Earth's fleet provides support. Simultaneously, we investigate the connection between the collective and the original entity. And in return," Martinez pressed, "what do you want?" Eva and Vega exchanged a glance before Vega spoke. "Access to all historical records concerning the Ares Initiative and the quarantine of the uncharted expanse. We want the truth about who ordered our abandonment and why." The council members shifted uncomfortably. One elderly counselor, Dr. Elijah Williams, spoke up. "Those records are sealed for good reason. Opening them now could destabilize command structures when we most need unity. Those records are the price of our cooperation," Vega stated flatly. 2 centuries ago, I was betrayed by Earth Command and left to die. I will not fight for those who refuse to acknowledge that crime." The debate raged for hours, but ultimately, facing the reality of humanity's desperate situation, the council agreed to Ares' terms. A joint task force was established, with Ares designated as the flagship of a special operations fleet. Not everyone accepted this uneasy alliance. Many officers refused to serve alongside what they viewed as an abomination, a living ship controlled by merged consciousnesses. Others saw Ares as humanity's salvation, a technological miracle returned in their darkest hour. Lieutenant Mercer, now promoted to captain of the Whisper, became the primary liaison between Ares and the regular fleet. He struggled with the transformation of his former commander, but remained loyal to Eva despite her altered state. "It's still strange," he admitted during one communication. "Talking to you like this." Eva's holographic projection smiled sadly. "Believe me, Mercer, it was stranger becoming this. But I'm still me. Just more than I was before." "And Vega? How is coexisting with him?" Mercer asked cautiously. "Complicated," Eva admitted. "He carries centuries of rage and pain. But he's also brilliant, dedicated. We're learning from each other." Within Ares systems, Eva and Vega had indeed developed an unusual relationship. Their consciousnesses remained distinct but interconnected, able to communicate instantly and share experiences with perfect clarity. Initially, Vega had been defensive, territorial about his ship, but Eva's presence had softened his bitterness somewhat, offering a new perspective and purpose. "You should rest," Vega suggested after Eva had spent hours analyzing defense strategies. In their digital environment, they appeared as human figures surrounded by streams of data, a simulation that helped them maintain their sense of identity. "I don't need rest anymore," Eva pointed out. Another advantage of this state. "The human mind still requires processing time," Vega countered. "Even digitized. Trust me, I've had centuries to learn the limitations." Eva relented, allowing her consciousness to enter a regenerative state while Vega maintained active monitoring. It was a strange intimacy they shared, two minds inhabiting the same vast system, never truly alone, yet still individual. Their alliance was tested when the Void Collective launched a major assault on the Proxima Centauri colony, the same location where Eva had lost her sister. Earth's defense fleet mobilized, with Ares taking point position. The battle that followed demonstrated the full capabilities of the ancient warship. Ares moved with impossible speed for its size, weapons firing with perfect precision. The black ships of the Void Collective, which had previously seemed invincible, were systematically destroyed. From the bridge of his vessel, Captain Mercer watched in awe as Ares single-handedly turned the tide of battle. "My God," he whispered, "it's incredible." But victory came with complications. When a group of civilian transports became endangered, Eva made the tactical decision to prioritize their protection, diverting resources from offensive operations. Vega disagreed vehemently. "We could have pressed the advantage," he argued within their shared consciousness once the battle ended. "Destroyed 3 more enemy vessels if we hadn't diverted power to those shields." "Those were 10,000 civilians," Eva countered. "The fleet could handle the remaining enemy ships." At the cost of 7 more destroyers and their crews, Vega shot back. A poor strategic exchange. Their internal conflict reflected a larger division developing within the Defense Council. Some military leaders, impressed by Ares' effectiveness, began advocating for more aggressive operations, pushing deep into Void Collective territory. Others, concerned by the ancient warship's autonomous nature and incredible power, urged caution. Meanwhile, as promised, the Council granted Eva and Vega access to the sealed records regarding the original Ares mission. The truth they discovered was more disturbing than either had anticipated. "They knew," Vega said, his digital form radiating cold fury as they processed the declassified files. "They knew the barrier wouldn't hold indefinitely without maintenance. They condemned countless systems to eventual destruction to maintain their precious secrecy. The records revealed that Earth Command had indeed abandoned Ares intentionally, not out of cowardice, but calculation. The entity had demonstrated an ability to corrupt and control human minds that came into extended contact with it. Several crew members on Ares had shown signs of this influence before communications were lost. Earth Command, fearing infiltration, had quarantined the entire region and classified all information about the entity. The official story of Ares' destruction was fabricated to prevent further expeditions. They had effectively sacrificed Vega and his crew to contain both the entity and knowledge of its existence. "Your integration with the ship was seen as confirming their worst fears," Eva realized as she processed the data. "They thought you had been corrupted, that the entity was controlling you through the neural interface. I was fighting it," Vega raged, "containing it. They abandoned me to centuries of isolation based on nothing but fear and suspicion." Eva let him vent his anger, understanding its justification. But she also recognized something the historical records implied but never stated directly. "The Void Collective's emergence timing isn't coincidental," she said quietly. "The barrier began failing about 50 years ago, according to these sensor logs. The first Void Collective ships appeared 43 years ago." Vega's fury faded as he processed this connection. They're not just fragments. They're evolved fragments, shaped by centuries of containment and then release. More organized, more purposeful, and potentially still connected to the main entity, Eva added. Which means the original threat still exists," Vega finished grimly. and could be released completely if the barrier fails entirely. This revelation changed everything. Their mission expanded beyond simply defeating the Void Collective. They needed to reinforce the failing barrier before the full entity escaped. When they presented these findings to the Defense Council, the reaction was predictable. New fear, accusations of deception, and reluctance to commit resources to an invisible threat when the visible one was still destroying colonies. You expect us to divert fleet assets to secure a barrier no one can verify, against an entity no one has seen in 2 centuries, based on the word of ship that by your own admission might have been compromised. General Martinez challenged. I expect you to learn from past mistakes. Vega responded coldly. The last Earth command that ignored this threat condemned humanity to its current war. Would you repeat their error? The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for a disturbing new development. The Void Collective, previously focused on systematic conquest of human colonies, suddenly changed tactics. Their ships began converging on a single location, the edge of the uncharted expanse, near the original containment zone. They're not just fragments, Eva realized with growing horror. They're drones, extensions, and they're trying to free the main entity. The Defense Council, faced with this alarming concentration of enemy forces, finally authorized a major expedition to the containment zone. A fleet of 50 ships would accompany Ares to assess and reinforce the barrier, while the remaining defense forces protected Earth and the surviving colonies. Captain Mercer, now commanding the advanced scout ship Sentinel, led the reconnaissance team. I still can't believe we're heading back to where this all started, he told Eva during a secure communication. It feels like we're closing a circle. Let's hope we're not opening a worse one, Eva replied grimly. As the fleet approached the edge of the uncharted expanse, they encountered increasing resistance from Void Collective forces. Battles grew more desperate as they pushed forward, losses mounting on both sides. Within Ares, Eva and Vega worked in perfect synchronization, their merged consciousness directing the ancient warship with unmatched efficiency. They had moved beyond their initial conflicts, finding a balanced partnership born of shared purpose and understanding. We're approaching the barrier location, Eva announced as they entered the nebula where Ares had lain dormant for so long. The sensors revealed a horrifying sight. The quantum barrier that had contained the entity was visibly failing, dark energy pulsing through growing breaches. Dozens of Void Collective ships surrounded it, directing energy beams at the weakening points. They're deliberately breaking it down, Vega observed, using resonant frequencies to disrupt the quantum fields. Beyond the failing barrier, something massive stirred, a darkness deeper than the void of space itself, pulsing with malevolent awareness. Tendrils of pure blackness extended through the breaches, connecting to the Void Collective ships like a puppeteer's strings. All vessels, battle formation Delta. Eva commanded the fleet. Prioritize targets nearest the largest breaches. The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. Ares led the charge, its ancient weapons tearing through Void Collective ships with devastating effect. The Earth fleet followed, focusing their fire where Ares created openings. But for every enemy vessel destroyed, the barrier weakened further. The entity beyond pushed against its constraints with increasing strength, its influence extending toward the human ships. Some of our vessels are reporting navigation problems, Mercer reported from the Sentinel. Crew experiencing headaches, disorientation. It's starting to affect them, Vega warned. The same influence that corrupted my crew is reaching out again. Eva made a swift decision. All human crewed vessels fall back to minimum safe distance. Maintain bombardment from range. Ares will handle close engagement. That puts too much pressure on our systems, Vega objected. Even we have limits. We're the only ones shielded from its influence, Eva countered. Our consciousness is protected by the ship's systems in ways theirs aren't. As the Earth fleet pulled back, Ares moved closer to the failing barrier, engaging the remaining Void Collective ships directly. The ancient warship took significant damage but continued fighting with undiminished ferocity. Within the ship's systems, Eva and Vega analyzed the barrier structure, seeking a way to repair it before it collapsed completely. The quantum resonance is destabilizing too quickly, Vega reported. Conventional reinforcement won't work in time. Eva processed the data, considering alternatives. What about inverting our main deflector array? Create a temporary containment field while we repair the primary barrier. Possible, Vega acknowledged, but it would require redirecting power from all other systems, including weapons and shields. We'd be completely vulnerable. Do we have a choice? Eva asked. The answer came in the form of a massive breach opening in the center of the barrier. A surge of darkness poured through, instantly consuming 3 void collective ships in its path. No choice at all, Vega agreed grimly. They executed the plan, Ares disengaging from combat and moving to position directly before the largest breach. The ship's weapons fell silent as all power diverted to the modified deflector array. Energy conversion initiated, Eva announced to the fleet. Containment field forming. We need 7 minutes to establish stability. You'll have it, Captain Mercer promised, his voice tight with determination. All vessels, defensive formation around Ares. Nothing gets through. The Earth fleet closed ranks, forming a protective shell around the vulnerable ancient warship. Void collective forces, sensing the threat to their master, concentrated their attack with renewed fury. Inside Ares, Eva and Vega worked frantically to establish the containment field. The ship groaned under the immense power drain, systems reaching critical stress levels. Field integrity at 60%, Vega reported. The entity is pushing back hard. Eva directed additional power to the critical emitters. Reroute emergency reserves. We need to hold it just long enough. Through the ship's external sensors, they watched the Earth fleet fighting desperately to protect them. Vessels exploded one after another as they absorbed fire meant for Ares. Captain Mercer's Sentinel took a direct hit but continued fighting, its hull breached in multiple sections. Field integrity at 85%, Vega announced. Almost there. A massive shudder ran through Ares as a concentrated barrage from 3 void collective ships overwhelmed one of their defensive screens. Damage alerts blared through their consciousness. Port deflector array failing, Eva reported. Field symmetry compromised. I can compensate, Vega responded, redirecting power from his core systems to the weakened array. But it will drain my personal reserves. Eva understood what he meant immediately. Vega, no. You'll destabilize your consciousness pattern. There's no alternative, he replied simply. The field must be completed. Before Eva could protest further, Vega channeled his core energy into the failing systems. The deflector array stabilized, the containment field strengthening to full power. Field integrity 100%, Eva announced, monitoring both the external situation and Vega's rapidly deteriorating consciousness. Initiating quantum lock on the entity. The darkness beyond the barrier raged against the new constraints, tendrils of void energy lashing out. But the combined technologies of the ancient Ares and its modified systems proved stronger. Slowly, the breaches began to close as the containment field reinforced the original barrier. It's working, Eva reported to the fleet. The barrier is stabilizing. With their connection to the entity weakening, the remaining void collective ships began to falter, their movements becoming erratic. The Earth fleet pressed the advantage, destroying one after another until the space around the barrier was clear. Inside Ares' systems, Eva turned her attention to Vega. His consciousness was fragmenting, the cohesion of his digital pattern breaking down from the massive energy transfer. Stay with me, she urged, attempting to stabilize his deteriorating matrix. Don't you dare disappear now, Admiral. That's an order. A weak laugh echoed through their shared consciousness. Never was good at following orders. That's why I ended up here. Eva refused to accept his fading. Working frantically, she restructured portions of Ares' central core, creating a protected space where Vega's consciousness could be preserved, even if diminished. I won't let you go, she insisted. We made a deal, remember? Justice, completion, purpose. We've only just started. Through sheer determination and innovative reprogramming, Eva managed to stabilize a portion of Vega's consciousness, though much of his memory and personality was fragmented or lost. What remained was simpler, more focused, but still recognizably him. "You should have let me go," were his first coherent words after stabilization. "Not a chance," Eva replied. "I still need you to teach me how to pilot this oversized battleship properly." In the aftermath, as the Earth fleet licked its wounds and established permanent monitoring stations around the reinforced barrier, a new understanding emerged of the threat they had faced and continued to face. The Void Collective had been weakened, but not destroyed. The entity remained contained, but still existed. And Ares, with its merged consciousnesses of Eva and the diminished Vega, occupied a unique position in humanity's defense structure, necessary yet feared, powerful yet vulnerable. 3 months after the Battle of the Barrier, as it came to be known, Ares orbited Earth for a formal recognition ceremony. The Defense Council, acknowledging both the ancient betrayal and the recent victory, officially commissioned Ares as the flagship of a new deep space defense division. "This isn't an ending," Eva told Mercer during the ceremony. "It's barely even a beginning." "What happens now?" he asked, looking up at her holographic projection. "We hunt down the remaining Void Collective forces," she answered. "We maintain the barrier. We prepare for the next threat, whatever it might be." "And Vega?" Mercer inquired cautiously. Eva's expression softened. "He's recovering, in his way. Different, but still fighting." Within Ares' systems, Vega's consciousness had indeed begun to rebuild itself, drawing on the ship's vast databases and Eva's shared memories to fill the gaps in his own. The process was slow, sometimes painful, but progression was undeniable. "We've been given a second chance," he told Eva during one of their internal dialogues. "Both of us. Neither fully human anymore, but perhaps something more. Something necessary," Eva agreed. "Guardians of a boundary most people will never know exists." As Ares departed Earth orbit, heading toward the frontier, where reports indicated Void Collective remnants were regrouping, Eva reflected on the strange journey that had brought her here. She had lost her human form, but gained a purpose greater than she had ever imagined. The anger that had driven her after her sister's death had transformed into something more balanced, a determined vigilance. And she was not alone. Vega, for all his remaining damage and occasional bitterness, had found a kind of peace in their shared mission. The betrayal that had defined him for centuries had been acknowledged, its perpetrators long dead. Justice had come in the form of truth, if nothing else. Together, they guided the ancient warship through the stars, defenders of a boundary between light and darkness. Neither fully human nor machine, but something uniquely suited to stand at the edge where others could not. In the depths of space, Ares moved with purpose, its weapons ready, its systems alert. Earth's first Star Destroyer had awakened angry, but it now flew with resolve. A guardian born of betrayal, sacrifice, and ultimately, redemption. The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter in its wake.